Y'all seen that? I ain't even gone front. What I'm about to tell y'all, it's wild. Leaks just dropped, clips that nobody was supposed to see, and it's shaking the whole game. I'm talking about King Von. Yeah, Von. The streets already got stories about him, but this flips the script entirely. Let me tell you what really went down. See, everyone thinks they know the King Von legacy, the hits, the blocks, the loyalty. But there's a side y'all ain't never heard. Behind the cameras, behind the chains and the studio sessions, something was brewing. Betrayal, misunderstandings, moves that no one outside the circle could have predicted. And somewhere in the middle, a decision that, nah, I can't even front, this changes everything. I got sources saying there was a confrontation, a real face-to-face. And it wasn't just talk, heated words, threats whispered like secrets, and some folks saying it got ugly fast. And here's the kicker. What y'all think is drama? Nah, it's way deeper than it looks. Way deeper. By the end of this video, you're gonna hear pieces of Von's story that might make you question everything you thought you knew. Loyalty, power, respect, all of it is on the line. And trust me, when I say the streets are still talking about this, I mean it. So sit tight, because once I peel back this layer, there ain't no going back. Y'all ready? Because this twist, it changes everything. You'll think you know King Von. I ain't gonna lie, most people see the charts, the hits, the videos, the glamour. But what you don't see is the world he moved through before the cameras even rolled. This story, it starts in the trenches. In Chicago, the streets talk, and they never lie, even when the headlines do. Von grew up where respect wasn't just earned, it was survival. You hit the wrong block, wrong person, you got the whole city talking about you, or you get buried in silence. That's the air he was breathing. Some folks in the rap game say Von carried a duality. On one side, the studio, the interviews, the fans screaming every line he dropped. On the other, the street politics that never left him alone. Loyalty there was currency, betrayal was death and ego. Man, ego was a loaded gun. I got a clip, or at least what feels like a clip, of Von on the phone one night, pacing his apartment, voice low but sharp. You said what? I told you about my respect. Pause. A beat. Then, nah, this ain't over, bro. You could hear the tension snapping through the line like electricity. That moment? That was the kind of spark that lights a whole fire. Most people never see that side of Von. They see the hits, the chains, the money. They don't see the chess game, the calculus behind every move. And it wasn't just business, it was personal. Family ties, block loyalty, old debts. Every handshake carried a lifetime of rules that nobody outside the circle could understand. It all started with a friendship. Y'all might know the names, might even think you understand the relationships. But here's the thing about alliances in that world. They're fragile. One moment, you're brothers, laughing, plotting studio sessions and tours. Next, it's whispers in the streets, rumors that twist the truth into knives. Von had a guy he trusted, real ride or die energy. But the tension was subtle at first. Small things nobody outside would notice. A missed call here, a late text there. But the streets, man, they noticed Von knew it. He was smart like that. He'd study movements, watch the body language, read the micro expressions of loyalty or deceit. And in this case, something was off. Leaked snippets tell the story better than I could in one sitting. There's a video, not full, just pieces, where Von walks into a studio late night, music pumping, but the energy is cold. You can hear him before he even says a word. Man, what the hell's going on here? A friend shrugs, nervous. A producer tries to calm him down. Von shakes his head, pacing. You know how I do. You know respect don't come cheap. That line. That's Von at his rawest. And what followed that night? Heated words. Names called, loyalty tested. Not in front of cameras, not for content. This was real life, consequences attached. And here's what people don't get. Von's circle wasn't just friends. They were his street board of directors. Every action had ramifications, every slip-up a potential war. And that night, the scales tipped. It didn't explode immediately. In fact, the streets have a patience most outsiders don't understand. A snub today becomes a rumor tomorrow. A rumor becomes a threat the next day. And then, boom, it hits. Leaked clips of confrontations. Arguments that nobody should have recorded started surfacing. Words flying like bullets. You think you slick? Thought I wouldn't see it. I ain't playing, bro. Don't test me. This is where Von's genius comes in. Most people would snap. Most people would react. But Von, he calculated. He let the situation grow. Let the tension stretch tight like a drum. Because in that moment, the streets respect patience and observation. You act too soon, you look weak. You act too late, you get played. Von understood the rhythm. He moved like a predator, listening, weighing, waiting for the opportune strike. Not physical, not yet, but the strategic one. But it wasn't just loyalty or ego in play. Money was involved, the kind that can break bonds quicker than any argument. Deals gone wrong, promises of studio time, management scraps, and investments in ventures that never fully materialized. Von had a side most people forget. He was a businessman. Every studio session, every collab, every social media drop had stakes. And when those stakes started clashing with the street code, that's where drama turns lethal. The night that changed it all started with a text. One line, nothing more. "We gotta handle this tonight." Von knew who it was from. His gut didn't lie. He called his people, told them to meet, told them to be sharp. There's a psychology to this. The street psychology that outsiders dismiss as violence. But in reality, it's discipline, observation, and hierarchy. Who's in? Who's out? Who can handle confrontation? Von was calculating every move, every reaction. And when he stepped out, the streets were buzzing. Whispers, block rumors, and social media chatter, all pointing to the same thing. Von was on a mission, but not just a mission of revenge, nah. It was bigger. It was about legacy, about respect, about making sure everyone remembered who controlled the narrative. There's a clip, grainy, shaky, where he's outside a studio, hoodie up, eyes sharp, pacing like a lion before a hunt. A voice from behind, "Bro, you sure?" Von doesn't flinch. "I told you. Respect don't wait." And that's when it hits. The energy shifts. People around him tighten up. Some whisper to each other, some step back. You can almost feel the weight of history in that moment. Because Von wasn't just reacting to one slight, one betrayal, one rumor. He was reacting to decades of street code, legacy, and reputation. And here's what most people don't see. The city itself watches these moves. The fans, the friends, the enemies, all eyes on him, reading every gesture, every word. It escalated fast. Within hours, clips of arguments leaked. Some staged, some real, all tense. And the public? They only saw flashes. A heated word here, a tense stare there. But the streets knew. They knew this was bigger than a fight, bigger than music, bigger than Von himself. This was about power, respect, and survival. And then there's the reflection part. The part where you step back and see the psychology. Von's moves weren't reckless. They were deliberate. He understood fear, leverage, and perception. Every conversation, every stare, every slight smile was part of the chessboard. And the people around him, they were pieces, pawns and queens alike. Some loyal, some questionable, some just waiting to see how far he'd go. By the end of that night, the narrative had shifted. Von had made his point without firing a single shot, without the world fully realizing it. But trust me, inside the blocks, inside the city, the word was out. King Von wasn't just a rapper anymore. He was a tactician, a strategist, a legend in the making, but also a man walking the razor's edge between glory and danger, and that's where we're at. That tension, that loyalty, that fear, it's what made Von real. Not just in the charts or the videos, but in the hearts of the people who knew him, who lived the streets he spoke about. And the twist? The real story isn't just the confrontations or the drama, it's the ripple effect. The choices he made that night would echo for months, even years. Some would elevate him, some would haunt him, and some would redefine what people thought about loyalty in the rap game. The night after that first confrontation, the city was buzzing. You could feel it in the air if you walked the right blocks, if you listened to the right whispers. Social media was a simmering pot of half-truths, clips, screenshots, rumors. But the real story, that stayed in the streets, that stayed behind closed doors, and Von, he was already 2 steps ahead, moving like he had a map no one else could read. He called his people together in the early hours. Not the studio, not for content, not for cameras. Just a quiet, dim-lit room with a table, a few faces, and the weight of decisions pressing down. The conversation started calm, methodical. Von leaned back, hood pulled low, hands clasped. "Listen," he said. "Y'all think y'all see the moves, but let me tell you, this ain't just about tonight. It's bigger." One of his closest guys leaned in nervously. "Bro, you sure we handle it like this?" Von shook his head, slow. "Nah, we handle it like we always handle it. Smart, clean, respect intact. But don't get it twisted. Anyone crossing me, They see the consequence. See, here's what people don't understand. Von didn't move like a typical rapper. He didn't react purely from emotion. He weighed fear, loyalty, optics, and money. He knew the streets watched, the industry watched, the fans watched. Every move could be a headline, every word a leak. But he also knew the rules. Respect was earned. Betrayal had a price. And pride was lethal. By the afternoon, word got out. The clips had leaked. Not the full confrontation, just pieces. A heated argument, some slurred threats. A handshake refused. Fans speculated, social media argued. But in the streets, people understood the undertone. One of Von's homies caught a text from a block legend. Bro, they testing you. Watch your back. Von's response? Short, calculated, I see it. Don't worry, I'ma handle it. And that's when the escalation started. It wasn't long before another clip surfaced. This one more intense. Von and his former close associate were arguing face to face, voices low but sharp enough to cut through the tension. You said what? Von snapped, stepping forward. I told you about my respect. The other guy's jaw tightened. Man, I ain't trying to disrespect you. You know that. But you over here making moves, not telling me nothing. Von paused, eyeing him like a chess master considering his next move. Not telling you nothing, he said. Nah, you already got your chance. You made choices. I ain't in the business of excuses. You feel me? The room went silent. You could almost hear the weight of loyalty pressing on everybody's chest. That pause, that hesitation. It wasn't just for show. It was a test. Von knew the streets watched. He knew the people around him watched. And he knew the moment they lost faith, the whole operation crumbled. But here's what's crazy. The betrayal wasn't simple. Money, fame, ego, street reputation, they all mixed into a toxic cocktail. The guy Von confronted wasn't just a friend. He was involved in business dealings, studio collaborations, and the kind of influence that could sway public perception. And perception mattered as much as loyalty. The balance Von had to maintain was delicate, razor thin. One wrong step, and the ripple could destroy more than friendships. It could dismantle his legacy. That night, they argued. They shouted. They threatened. But it wasn't chaos. It was calculated. Every word, every glance, every gesture had a meaning. One of Von's homies whispered under his breath, "Man, this about to blow up." Von didn't flinch. "Let it," he said. "But it ain't gonna be messy. Not for me. Not for us." And then somewhere in the middle of the night, the turning point came. A leaked snippet. Grainy, shaky, but undeniable. Captured Von leaving the building. Not angry, not frantic, but deliberate. Focused. Eyes scanning every corner. Movements precise. Someone called out from a car parked down the block. "Von, you good?" Von didn't answer at first. Then calm, low, "I'm good. But they gon' learn tonight. Respect don't come free." That's when the psychological game hit its peak. Von's actions weren't just reactive. They were symbolic. Every move sent a message. Loyalty, fear, respect. These weren't abstract concepts. They were weapons. And anyone paying attention could read the message. The aftermath hit social media and the streets differently. Fans speculated. Some celebrated his decisiveness. Others feared the implications. Industry insiders whispered about potential fallout. But for Von, it wasn't about likes, shares, or headlines. It was about maintaining control in a world where one slip, one betrayal, one rumor could unravel everything. By dawn, the first major consequence landed. One of Von's associates, the one closest to the guy he'd confronted, texted him, "Bro, it's done. They get it now." Von's reply was simple. Flat. Deadly calm. Good. That's all I needed. Notice the energy here. Not violent for the sake of violence. Not ego for the sake of ego. It was about sending a clear signal. Boundaries exist. Cross them, and consequences follow. The streets don't forgive ignorance. They don't forgive disrespect. Von understood that. And in that moment, his legacy wasn't just his music. It was his command of respect. But it didn't end there. Rumors started swirling about additional confrontations, miscommunications, and alliances being questioned. Some say Von's actions alienated certain figures. Others say he gained new respect. And the truth? It's somewhere in between. That's the beauty of street politics. Half-truths, exaggerations, and legend all mix into reality. And Von thrived in that space. He understood how perception could shape loyalty, how fear could reinforce discipline, and how power, when exercised carefully, could define a legacy. One evening, a close friend described the scene to me. Von, sitting alone in his apartment, headphones on, staring at the city lights. Texts buzzing, calls coming through, yet he remained still. He just sat there, the friend said, like he was weighing the world, calculating. You could tell he knew the ripple effect of every move he made. Von's strategy was as much mental as physical. He anticipated reactions, read intentions, and measured outcomes. And in this case, the outcome was subtle yet undeniable. He reasserted control. The street, the block, the associates, everyone had a reminder of who he was. Not just a rapper, not just a personality, a tactician, a leader, a man whose legacy was being forged in real time, sometimes in silence, sometimes in shadows, sometimes in leaked clips that made the streets hold their breath. The tension is palpable. Loyalty tested, fear instilled, respect reinforced. And yet, the story is far from over. Because in the world Von moved in, one calculated move tonight could spark another tomorrow. One betrayal could surface later. One rumor could ignite a chain reaction. And that's the reality of the streets, the game, and legacy itself. Von wasn't just playing for survival. He was playing for history. And anyone paying attention, they knew the stakes were high, the moves deliberate, and the consequences unavoidable. The morning after, the city was quieter than usual. Not silent, but tense. People on the block walking slower, eyes scanning, ears tuned. Word had spread. The clips, the confrontations, the whispers. Von's moves the night before weren't just noted. They were analyzed, dissected, and passed around like currency. And that's the thing about legacy in the streets. Perception is everything. You control the story, or the story controls you. Von didn't post, didn't brag, didn't call the media. He let it sit, let it breathe, let it simmer. Because the real work, it happens off camera, behind the walls. In quiet conversations, handshakes and glances that speak louder than any headline. And people were talking. Some saying he went too far. Some saying he handled it with precision. But all agreeing on one thing. He made a statement. The day unfolded like a chessboard. Allies checked in, some hesitant, some reassured. A few calls came in that Von ignored. Not because he was scared, nah. Because he understood timing. You strike too soon, you seem desperate. Too late, you seem weak. Von's timing was surgical. And that's why, even now, people still debate what really happened. Then came the twist. Leaks started surfacing. Not about Von confronting anyone. Not about the arguments or the threats. Nah, this was different. This was bigger. Some videos, some texts, some messages showed something nobody expected. Von hadn't just reacted to betrayal. He had orchestrated a move that shifted the power dynamics completely. A former ally, someone close enough to the inner circle to know secrets, had been testing him, trying to manipulate the narrative. Von saw it, measured it, and then flipped the script. You really thought I wouldn't see it? Von's voice, calm, measured, low. The guy on the other end froze, just like the people watching the leaked footage. And Von, he didn't just punish him. He exposed the strategy, made it clear who controlled the game. That's where the legacy twist hits. Most people think Von was reactionary, hot-headed, street tough. But no, he was chess-level strategic. Every confrontation, every tense moment, every word dropped in the leaked clips. It was all part of a larger plan. The streets started talking about it differently. Respect shifted. Some of the old guard in Chicago whispered to younger artists, Von ain't just a rapper. He sees moves you can't even imagine. And that's where the emotional weight comes in. Because Von's actions weren't about ego alone. They were about teaching lessons. Loyalty, discipline, consequences. The kind of lessons that don't get taught in interviews or Instagram captions. They get taught in tense rooms, in whispered warnings, in moments where you realize someone has your respect, or doesn't. In moments where you realize someone has your respect, or doesn't. I heard from a close source that after the twist, Von sat with a small circle, no cameras, no leaks this time, and reflected, quietly. You'll think this is just about them. Nah, it's about us, about the streets, about showing people respect ain't free, loyalty ain't cheap, and your name carries weight. That reflection, that's Von at his truest. Not a rapper for the charts, not a personality for social media, a tactician, a teacher, a man aware of the power his moves carried. And the impact? Immediate. Alliances shifted. Some dissolved, some strengthened. The streets, the fans, the industry, everyone felt it. And the ripple effect? It's still hitting today, but here's the moral layer. the part most people gloss over. Von's twist wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about violence or money or clout alone. It was about legacy, about sending a message. Respect, loyalty, discipline. These aren't just words in a song. They're currency, and when you test them, you test the entire ecosystem around you. Von knew this, and by executing his strategy, he changed the narrative of his career forever. There were emotional costs, of course. Friends questioned decisions, family worried, associates hesitated, fear was a constant companion. And yet, Von never wavered. That's the psychology of a leader. Balancing risk, loyalty, perception, and legacy all at once. And that's why, even now, people can't stop talking about this moment. The twist reshaped the way people view King Von. Not just as a rapper, but as a force. Calculated, deliberate, commanding. The fallout reached social media in stages. Fans debated, critics analyzed, industry insiders whispered. Clips went viral, memes surfaced, but the deeper truth was in the subtle shifts. Alliances, respect, influence. Von's moves didn't just change relationships. They changed how the entire city perceived his legacy. And in the rap game, perception is power. One night, after all the dust settled, a friend described seeing Von alone in the studio, headphones on, staring at the skyline, quiet, calculating, reflecting. Man, he's thinking 10 steps ahead, the friend said. Like, he's not just living this life, he's writing it, controlling it, bending it to his vision. That vision, it wasn't just fame or money. It was influence. It was respect. It was legacy. And in that moment, the twist becomes clear. King Von didn't just react to betrayal. He redefined how loyalty and power worked in his world. He made people rethink what it meant to be a leader, a street legend, a tactician in a world that thrives on chaos. And that's the lesson here. The streets, the industry, the fans, they all saw it differently. Some said he went too far. Some said he handled it perfectly. But everyone agreed on one thing. This wasn't just drama. This was a statement, a blueprint, a legacy redefined by strategy, patience, and cold, calculated reflection. By the end of this part of the story, you start to see the bigger picture. Von's moves weren't just reactive, they were proactive. The confrontations, the leaked clips, the whispers, all of it was part of a master plan. And that plan, it changed the way people look at him forever. His legacy? Not just hits, not just fame, not just stories in the streets, but the quiet, deadly intelligence behind every move. And that, right there, is why the twist matters. It turns what people thought they knew upside down. It forces you to ask, was Von just a street rapper, or was he something more? Someone who understood the rules of loyalty, respect, and legacy better than almost anyone else in the game. Someone who played chess while everyone else was playing checkers. The streets still talk about it, the industry still whispers, the fans still debate, and that's exactly what Von wanted. Not chaos, not clout, not drama, but influence. Real, lasting influence. And for anyone paying attention, that's the twist that changes everything. The city never sleeps, but in moments like this, it feels like it's holding its breath. King Von's moves, the twist, the confrontations, the strategy, all of it rippled through Chicago, through the streets, through the culture itself. By now, anyone paying attention knew one thing. This story wasn't just about him. It was about how power, respect, and legacy get built and defended in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. Von's legacy had always been tied to his music, his storytelling, his ability to paint the streets in vivid colors. But this moment, this twist, it added a new layer. One that wasn't on any track. One that wasn't on any social media post. This was about him as a tactician, a leader, a man who understood the rules most people only whisper about. And let me tell you something, that's what separates legends from the rest of the pack. The aftermath wasn't simple. Some allies grew closer, reassured that Von could be trusted. Some former friends kept their distance, realizing the cost of crossing lines. And the fans, they debated endlessly. Social media became a chessboard of opinions. Von went too far. No, he's showing real leadership. Respect in the streets isn't free, and he proved it. And that's exactly the point. In the streets, respect is a currency, loyalty is a contract, fame is a tool, not a guarantee. Von understood that, and he operated accordingly. Every clip, every text, every confrontation was calculated. Not for drama, not for clout, but for legacy. And that's what makes this twist so powerful. It wasn't just about retaliation. It was about defining the rules on your own terms. You can't underestimate the psychological layer here. Fear and respect are intertwined. When someone moves the way Von did, people feel the weight of consequences before they even happen. It's subtle, it's effective, and it's permanent. And the ripple effect isn't just in Chicago. The rap game watches, the industry notices, and the culture absorbs it. Leaders are not born. They're made in moments like this. And Von, he made himself unforgettable. There were conversations behind closed doors too. I heard from a source close to the situation. Von, reflecting on everything, said quietly, "You'll think this is about them. Nah, it's about showing the world that respect, loyalty, and discipline ain't just words. They're the rules. And if you don't play by them, you learn." That moment captures the essence of leadership. Von wasn't just reacting to events. He was teaching lessons. Lessons about loyalty, about consequences, about understanding your environment and owning your space. And here's what people don't always see. That's harder than making hits, harder than dropping mixtapes, harder than chasing fame. It's deeper, more dangerous, more real. Even the industry started taking notes. Executives, producers, and collaborators realized Von operated on a level most didn't understand. He wasn't just an artist, he was a strategist, a man who calculated risk, measured outcomes, and understood the psychology of the streets better than most. That's why this twist changes everything, because it reframes the way you see his legacy, not just as a rapper who told stories, but as someone who lived them, controlled them, and used them to define his own rules. And there's a lesson for the rest of us too. Loyalty isn't casual, respect isn't optional. Leadership isn't about being loud or flashy. It's about understanding the game, knowing your people, and making moves that others might not see until it's too late. Von's story in this moment is a masterclass. And the best part, it's authentic. No Hollywood scripts, no TV edits, no exaggeration. Just real life with all its danger, drama, and reflection. Now here's the human layer, the part that hits hardest. Von's actions weren't without consequence. Relationships were tested. Emotions ran high. Fear and pride collided. But through it all, he remained true to himself and his principles. That's why legends don't just get remembered for music or fame. They get remembered for integrity in a world where integrity costs everything. And Von paid that price in full. So what does this all mean for hip-hop? For loyalty? For leadership? It means the game isn't just about bars, streams, or clout. It's about understanding the people around you, seeing moves others miss, and acting decisively when your legacy is on the line. Von showed that. The twist? It revealed the depth of his mind, the clarity of his vision, and the weight of his presence. And that's why this story resonates beyond the streets. Because power, respect, and strategy are universal. And now I gotta turn it over to y'all. What do you think about this situation? Did King Von handle it the right way? Did he go too far? Or did he just show the kind of leadership and vision most people only talk about? Think about it. Loyalty, respect, legacy. They're all on the table here. Drop your thoughts below. Be honest, be real. Because this story, it's far from over. And trust me, every perspective matters when the streets, the culture, and the game are watching. Don't forget to subscribe, because we're just scratching the surface of what really went down. The leaks, the twists, the lessons, there's more coming. And if you're paying attention, you'll see that King Von's story isn't just about music. It's about power, strategy, and the street-level rules that define what it means to leave a legacy that lasts. Street-level rules that define what it means to leave a legacy that lasts. So, take a minute, think it through, and drop your thoughts. Because in this game, your insight counts as much as your respect. And right now, Von's legacy is still writing itself. You'll already seen how deep this goes. King Von's twist? It ain't just about drama, it's about strategy, about loyalty, about respect that carries weight in a world that don't hand it out for free. What he did, the moves, the confrontations, the way he flipped the script, it changes how we see him forever. Not just as a rapper, but as a tactician, a leader, a man who understood the streets and the game better than most. Now think about this. Loyalty isn't casual. Respect ain't optional. Leadership ain't about showing off or yelling the loudest. It's about seeing the moves before anyone else does, acting when it matters, and making sure your legacy speaks louder than your words. Von showed that. And that's the lesson. Real power isn't in clout, it's in control. Real respect isn't given, it's earned. Real legacy. It's built quietly, decisively, and sometimes unexpectedly. And that's where y'all come in. What do you think about this situation? Did Von do the right thing, or did he cross a line? Are these moves smart leadership, or too far in the streets? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because every perspective matters. We're building this conversation, piece by piece. And the streets, the culture, the game, they're all listening. Make sure you hit subscribe too. Why? Because this story, it's far from over. There are layers, twists, and lessons we haven't even scratched yet. And when we unpack them, you'll see the full picture of what it really means to play the game, protect your name, and leave a legacy that doesn't fade when the lights go out. So pause, reflect, type it out, and let us know. In the world of loyalty, respect, and legacy, where do you stand?